I don't know if you listened to the live interview last week where El-Rufai admitted that somebody supposedly in the corridors of power tapped the NSA's phone, and that's how they got information that it was Nuhu Ribadu using the ICPC to come arrest him at the airport when he arrived in Nigeria from Cairo. He also recently exposed a particular receipt of a toxic substance from Poland, where they said it is a salt that doesn't have any taste whatever, but it's a very poisonous and toxic substance. You can put it in somebody's food, in somebody's water, anything. When the person eats it, the person becomes delirious and beginning to shrivel internally, and they'll consider it an illness that nobody disclosed early on time, and the person dies of. And El-Rufai was asking the Nuhu Ribadu, the NSA, that why did you purchase such a substance? Who went through it and for what purpose? The NSA denied, but El-Rufai produced a receipt for the purchase of that. So the question is this: today at the EFCC quarters in Abuja, there were protesters who were saying that El-Rufai was being mistreated by the government of the day, and they were saying that he's a very good man. Now the question is this: El-Rufai's defense is that the federal government, taps people's phones all the time and they listen to people's phone calls. So it's not something new. What would you say concerning the legal backing? The DSS has eventually charged him to court on this. What do you think could be the result of this outcome?
Well, the issue is the DSS or the government can charge anybody for anything, but the fact is that in criminal proceedings, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. So the reality is, if Mr. El-Rufai said he got information about phone calls by the National Security Advisor, the issue is, was he bluffing? Can the government prove it? Was what he said, was it true?
The government, the NSS office admitted that yes, their phones were wiretapped. They confirmed that it was wiretapped. What they did not confirm was a toxic substance.
No, even whether it was wiretapped or not, who was it wiretapped by El-Rufai, or was it? There are several issues, and the NSA themselves should even be ashamed of themselves. But what I've seen in all this is that the government is becoming jittery. They are becoming even afraid of their own shadows. The government is not even ashamed to say that their phones were wiretapped, because that is their stock in trade. Many Nigerians who are in the position know that the government wiretaps phones. But the issue is not just to charge El-Rufai for wiretapping or whatever, but to prove it. And the proving is that's where the whole thing lies. You can charge whatever. I listened to Mr. El-Rufai, his comments, that yes, they also have means of listening into what the government is saying. Does the government know whether it is the Holy Spirit who is leading El-Rufai and co? So the issue is, how do you prove? Will it be proved that even El-Rufai, that the National Security Advisor was the one leaking information to El-Rufai? So we await the proof. The beautiful thing about it is this: this is a civilian regime. They have charged him. What he's been charged for, he can be granted bail. Let them come before the court and establish that all those offences were indeed committed by Mr. El-Rufai. Then Nigerians will take it up from there. That's just the reality. For now, it is just a charge, and of course, the El-Rufai will say it's innocent of whatever charges he's been charged.
Well, his supporters are saying that it's a deliberate witch hunt, and they're saying that the essence of this is to ensure that APC does not have any opposition. They also allege that if the APC say they're confident that they're doing the needful, they've resuscitated the economy and all that, why have they been campaigning right from the inauguration of the president like a major opposition and renting individuals to supposedly throw out a false narrative about the administration? So in light of that regard, do you think there's any form of verifiability to what they're alleging?
Well, like I said, even the Nigerians, the walls of the National Security Advisor's room or office are against this regime for what they are doing to Nigerians. So they have to be afraid of their shadows, because they know what crimes they have committed against Nigerians and against the Nigerian state. And I repeat, Mr. El-Rufai just said he has gotten information. They are able to assess what Mr. Ribadu was saying, but the issue is, can the government prove it? It's not just to say your phones were wiretapped. How were they wiretapped? By who? What were you doing when your phones were being wiretapped? And if you know all this, it is a government, for goodness sake, that is able to wiretap the phones of individuals, but it's not able to wiretap the phone of terrorists who shows millions of naira they have been paid for in ransom. And they are shameless enough to come and say they are accusing somebody of wiretapping the NSA's phone. Come on. I mean, the reality is this. This government is scared of its own shadows. And this is just the beginning. This government is scared of its own shadows. And this is just the beginning.
All right, let's look at the FCT minister. He actually is saying that anybody not supporting Tinubu will not win the FCT council polls. In fact, Wike supposedly is to block candidates who do not support President Bola Tinubu. The FCT council polls are coming up very soon. I think by the 21st to 26th of February 2026. And Wike made that statement in a public gathering. Nobody has come out to condemn him. He said any candidate on that FCT council poll who is not supporting Tinubu will be blocked. Please, what does that mean, sir?
Well, Mr. Wike is bluffing, and like most of his comments, no, I'm coming. Like most of his comments, he's talking absolute nonsense, and he's only saying what he's saying because he knows he has the backing of Mr. Bola Tinubu, and they use the police and the law enforcement agencies at will. So that is what is giving him the impetus to utter such utter nonsense. But the reality is this: if we are indeed in a democracy, and then people are allowed to go and vote, he has no right to make such silly comments. Nigerians will go to the polls and vote for who they want to vote, and this will be a very good test of the credibility of the new INEC chairman. Nigerians will watch this election with all it deserves, and if he messes up, Nigerians realize that we can as well begin to realize that they have already planned what they will do with the next general election. So let Mr. Wike continue to bluff and fool himself, but on the election day, Nigerians should man their polling unit, count the votes at each polling unit, and ensure that if the ultimate result does not tally with what has been counted at the polling unit, they should resist it with all their might. And when I say resist is this: there is an integral right to protest against illegalities and criminalities. So when people are called to resist vote rigging, it is a call to uphold the Nigerian Constitution. So I keep on saying again, when they try to rig the next elections, well, even if it's the FCTC election, with whatever they bring on against Nigerians should be able to push back. And we cannot say we are afraid, because we've seen what has happened to Nigeria in the past 2.5 years, when we allowed the current regime to get away with the robbery of the 2023 general presidential elections. Nigerians have died in their millions, Nigerians have starved, Nigerians have suffered. So we cannot allow this rascality to continue a day longer. Thank you.
Protesters today returned to the National Assembly. So Abuja was bombarded by protesters, those for real-time transmission of results, those countering countering and asking the federal government to arrest El-Rufai as soon as possible, and those who support El-Rufai coming to show him support at the EFCC headquarters in Abuja today. So it caused quite a traffic gridlock today in Abuja with all of those protests. The protesters are saying that transmission of results must be real time, and they said that APC will no longer continue to put Nigerians in the stance they have put them. A couple of supporters of this administration say that all of the challenges currently happening are targeted just because it's somebody from the southwest who is there, and that this is deliberate to destabilize Bola Tinubu's administration. However, the administration's effort when it comes to economy and security, a couple of persons have alleged that it has been quite lackluster and they have been unstrategic in handling this. The confirmation by El-Rufai that they could wiretap the NSA's phone indicates the porosity in intelligence gathering and intelligence monitoring within the intelligence unit of the federal government to these terrorists, and their allegations that these terrorists are highly supported by the government of the day, from Lakurawa, Mahmouda, ISIS, and obviously Boko Haram, that all these persons have direct links to the federal government. What's your take on that?
Now, El-Rufai did not confirm anything. El-Rufai is a politician. So when he makes a comment like we have access to know what the NSA is saying or what the president is saying, it could be just political gimmicks. And then you don't begin to say he has confirmed anything. He just made a statement as a politician, and now the government is scared. But the reality is this: from their antecedents, from their mannerisms, from their inability to even curb the terrorists, from their inability to stop these criminal elements when they have the power to stop them, from the various linkages, meetings that the government has had, not just the government and the security agencies have had with the terrorist elements. It is clear that there is a nexus, there is a linkage between the government of the day, this APC-led government, and the terrorists. That is irrefutable. And then they can pretend all they want, but the reality is that there is some nexus between the government of the day and these bandits and terrorists. Because if there was no nexus, why is it that when these terrorists strike, all the checkpoints disappear? And immediately after the terrorists have left the place, the checkpoints appear. In the other day in Katsina, we heard about the school that there was an order for the soldiers that were guarding the area to stand down. Within 45 minutes, terrorists came and kidnapped all the students in that school. So you just get to understand that there is some kind of nexus. But the issue is, will Nigerians continue to tolerate this kind of rascality in governance? Will we, at the earliest opportunity, kick out these characters from office? And I think that's what I urge Nigerians to do at all times. We cannot continue in this manner. Nigeria is dying, Nigeria is decadent, and we must put a stop to it. And the way to stop it is to kick out those who have led us to this ruin as early as possible.
Don't look up Moringa. Seriously, just skip this. You walk past it in the market. You hear the name here and there.
Those who have led us to this ruin as early as possible.
Our Barrister Eze, the National Assembly was meant to be in a 2-week recess, but they called for an emergency sitting today. Now, Nigerians thought it's going to be about the real-time transmission of election results. Apparently, it's not for it. It's to pass on some budgets, basically for the Nigerian army, and also to backdate the presidential election. From what we're hearing now, based on the sitting, they will reconvene tomorrow, February 17. They're cutting short their recess, and one of the things they intend to look into is to backdate the February elections rather than February 20, 2027. It's going to be February 13. You recall that when the INEC chair released the election timetable for 2027 for Presidential and National Assembly, our Muslim brother said no, that will be during the period of Ramadan, that they should please consider having to change that date from February 20 to possibly ahead of or before that time. So do you think that the prerogative or the priority of the National Assembly, it doesn't even have to do anything with Nigerians' welfare, is basically just for 2027 elections?
Well, the fact is that the part of the welfare of Nigerians is the 2027 election. And the law is that the date must be set at least a year in advance of the date of the election. So if the National Assembly deem it necessary to come back and sit and approve this new law, good. I don't see anything wrong with that. We don't have to lampoon them at every opportunity. But one thing that strikes me in all this, in this story, in the question you just narrated, is this. So it is possible for the next year's Ramadan date to be known. So all this charade of waiting for the Sultan to announce a date for Ramadan is so hogwash. I mean, the reality is that, and as any ardent Muslim will tell you, across the world, the dates for the next 50 Ramadans are known. So all this pretense that we're waiting for somebody to see any moon, the moon for the next 100 years are known when they will come out. So why must we now wait for that pretense of somebody announcing they have sighted the moon when the dates for the next 100 years moon are known? So I mean, that's what I take from this. But I don't see anything wrong with the Nigerian National Assembly coming back to tweak the dates for the election to conform with the laws.
Barrister, when 200 persons were murdered in Benue, when what happened in Kwara happened, when Boko Haram showed a video of 176 persons abducted in Kwara after the killings, they didn't consider it a thing of prerogative or priority to set up an emergency meeting at the National Assembly and question the Nigerian security operatives as to why we're having this incessant attacks across the country. You didn't consider that was something they could reconvene for rather than for elections in 2027.
Well, the National Assembly has its own laws, its own duties for it. It's not the executive arm of government. Their duty is to make laws. Their duty is to ensure that there is good governance with laws. I mean, it is the presidency, the president that should be blaming for not visiting those areas, for not giving necessary orders to the military to act timeously, and not the National Assembly. For goodness sake, let us realize that they may be bad for now, but ultimately what distinguishes a democracy from a dictatorship is the National Assembly, the legislative arm of government. All military regimes have the executive and the judiciary. What they do not have is the legislative arm of government. So yes, we have a very rotten rubber-stamped National Assembly for now, but we should work towards having a better National Assembly, and we should not be lampooning them for errors when they try to correct wrongs in society.
Barrister Eze Uche, thank you so much for taking your